you're learning what makes these people tick, what makes them happy, what excites them, and then you're trying to deliver that, and you just see their eyes light up, or when they put the first spoonful of food in their mouth. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are heading up to the Sunshine Coast, which I think perhaps isn't so sunshiny right at this minute. Lots of the East Coast is definitely rainy at the moment. We are chatting to Jade Tareha from Humble on Duke. Jade has been on my brother podcast, Deep in the Weeds, before, and it is awesome to welcome her back to the network. Jade, great to have you here on Dirty Linen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are things for you at the moment?
Yeah, pretty good. It's, exactly how you said, not so sunny and pretty rainy, but nothing compared to the rain we had earlier in the year. So, but I don't know, apparently we had our coldest day yesterday. It wasn't too bad. We still have some people that want to sit outside in the cold, and I secretly judge them, but they love it. So not too bad. I think we're in the middle of the holidays. We don't have a large children market at our restaurant, so it's busy, and we're pretty consistent most weeks anyway.
Put us in the picture, like tell us a little bit about Humble on Duke for people who haven't been there or perhaps don't know what you do.
Very small. So we have a little 14-seater restaurant in Sunshine Beach, which is about 5-6 minutes from Hastings Street, and a little bit quieter, but a quaint little village. We serve modern Australian, Middle Eastern style food. My partner's actually the chef, and she's the only chef in the restaurant, in the kitchen. And then there's myself and Michaela and Ali out the front. So really tiny. We do 2 sittings, always a set menu, and just try and make people feel good with food, wine and banter.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds beautiful, so personal and very bespoke, but I reckon, I guess there'd be advantages and disadvantages, or perhaps, challenges with running such a small restaurant. Tell me about the pros and cons.
I think the positives are, there's obviously a huge change and a huge challenge with hospitality at the moment, and people either being able to keep staff or just find staff initially. So we're really lucky where I only have to rely on Stacey in the kitchen. So, if she's unwell, or either of us are unwell, we rely on each other and we just push through for any reason, or if we're tired or anything like that. But we can manage it ourselves. If, I've got two front of house girls, but if they're away, which the last 5 weeks has been a bit of a challenge because I've had my main girl go away on a 4-week holiday, and then I almost didn't have anyone. And I just shut a couple of tables off, and I said, why don't we just do it how we originally planned to do the business? And I just serve 10 people at a time, and you help me reset, and then we move on to the next sitting. So we ended up getting a really, really good staff member, a young girl that's come on, so we're lucky. But it was just a matter of closing off a table. We only have a total of 5 tables in the restaurant, so we thought we'll cut off a table that's can sit 4 people, and then I'll just manage it myself. So that's a positive. Like, I feel like if you have a bigger venue, the stress levels are, I don't know how they do it, and I take my hat off to them. Because when you've got a bigger venue like that, you can't be everywhere. Positives, keeping it small. We're pretty consistent with the experience and the food that we can deliver to guests. We have the same people that come back every week. So that's beautiful. It's pretty positive. You're not having to do 80 plus hours in a venue. Like, we are only open 4 nights a week. We used to be 5, but that started to take a toll on our mental and physical health. So at the start of this year, we made a decision to drop it down. And sort of have a work-life balance, which balance doesn't quite exist, but, you like to think it does sometimes. So, there's a lot of positives. There's also negatives. I find being so small, if you have things that impact you, like people not showing up or cancellations, that affects us straight away, and us personally. That just means we don't get paid that week, and our staff do, or food is wasted. So, you know, being limited days, being limited number of seats, and how we've designed our menu, we've really got to be careful with that. So, yeah.
Jade, yeah, there's so much in what you say, and I think, you know, the things that you speak to are issues that I guess every hospitality business is speaking to in different ways, you know, looking for that balance, the impact of no-shows and cancellations. But of course, in a small business such as yours, it can have an outsized impact. And I was really quite shocked to trawl through a Restaurant and Catering Industry Association report recently. This is from 2021, and it said that 63% of owners underpay themselves. So, I mean, we know hospo's, you know, notorious for sometimes underpaying staff, but I think that whole notion of owners underpaying themselves and really sacrificing their own income for those of their staff or their suppliers, whatever it might be, all those on costs, isn't something that's spoken about as much. And of course, as much as, you know, I can hear how much you love what you do, it's got to be a viable business as well, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. Yeah, like you know, Stacey's been a chef for 21 years. She's worked in New Zealand, Australia, Dubai, and then we come back here, and she's a superstar. I studied hospitality when I was 19 in Adelaide. I wanted to get in the industry. I wanted to be a restaurant manager, and I unfortunately couldn't get a full-time job. However many years ago, I'm going to show my age when I say that, but yeah, 15 years ago. So I left the industry, and then I've come back to it and done that, had those full-time jobs. And it was a time where we were like, okay, we need to do something on our own, and we need to, yeah, and we're passionate about our industry. We're passionate about the people in it. And it's funny because we had a conversation the other day, and I was like, God, I miss the days when you could just apply for annual leave and take a couple of days off work. Because if we do that now, we're not just losing a couple of $100s, we're losing thousands and thousands of dollars. So, but we are passionate. And, you know, I heard it recently on a podcast that passion will, I think it was someone you just did one with, but passion will only get restaurant owners so far. And then after that, you really need to think about, you know, what you're doing. We've been open for a year and 8 months, and money is obviously a taboo topic. Our photographer was talking about this the other day, and I'm probably going to be pretty raw and honest with you. And we've only really started paying ourselves something from February, March this year. And we've put that money that we've earned and lack of money that we've earned for the past year and 7 months back into the business, because we want to be better, and we want to learn, and we want to make sure that everyone's having a fantastic time. It's the dream. It's the dream to own your own business and to set your own rules. But with that comes severe sacrifice. And I never want this to be about a negative thing. Like, it's a beautiful thing. We're literally living the dream, but working super hard. But also there's that other element where you need to educate people and go, hey, these are two little people that are they're not going to get paid if you don't turn up, or, you know, everyone else is going to get paid before them, which is the reality of owning your own business. But yeah, I think the data that you were just talking about, I was reached out to Belinda Clark from the Restaurant and Catering as well, and just about, you know, where have our staff gone and the impacts of cancellations. And I was shocked that the number's 20%. The impacts of cancellations and no-shows on small restaurants is 20% of bookings. I was like, no, surely not.
Well, I mean, we know that if that's the case, I mean, there is no profit, because we know the margins are not 20% plus. So, yeah, that's devastating, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think the podcast that you may have been alluding to is Damien Brabender from Otis in Canberra. And I'd say to anyone who hasn't listened to that chat, please go back and have a listen. It's, really so constructive as well as so heartfelt. And, yeah, we also had a good chat with Belinda Clark, the incoming CEO at Restaurant and Catering. So that's another good one to have a listen to if you haven't caught up on that. But, I mean, what do you do about this, Jade? Like, what kinds of conversations are you able to have with your customers? And, yeah, do you feel like you're sort of getting the message through?
Some people you get the message through. Like, it is super clear when you make a booking with us online, or if you're lucky enough to have a chat with me, because I love having a chat. If you book via phone, I'll always tell you. I'll always say our cancellation policy is 48 hours, because you get people that book a table, and the largest table we do is a 6. But if you book a table of 6, that's almost half my restaurant. So if you cancel 2 days out of that booking, or even the week before, I then have to fill that. And I've got to find 6 seats, 6 bums to put on seats. So our cancellation policy is clear. It's 48 hours. If you cancel within that time frame and we fill the spot, no problem. Like, the data on, we've had, if I could tell you, it's pretty bad. When I look at, I had a chat with Open Table, who's our online booking system. And I don't want to go from January, because January and February were really weird months where most of the restaurant industry was getting COVID, or their guests were in sort of November, December. So I've just sort of taken it from May, June, July. But in May this year, I had 25 bookings cancel, a total of 80 people. In June, it was 14, a total of 42 people. And we're only a few days into July, and I've had 7 cancellations already with a total of 16 people. But from the cancellations in the last 6 months, 57 of them have cancelled within the 48 hours. The amount of people we've charged out of all of those bookings is 6. And 3 of those have got vouchers for the full amount. Like, we're pretty fair, but we're having to have this conversation with people. Earlier this year, and this was a real sort of stressful time for us. We had a guest who had been and dined with us last year, and out of the 4 bookings that he'd only ever turned up to 1. So they were cancelled, and they were large tables of 5 or tables of 6s. Anyway, the last time he cancelled on the day before or the day of for a table of 6. And I just said to Stacey, I had a conversation. I said, we can't wear this anymore. Like, this guy's booked 4 times. He's only ever turned up once. I don't know what to do. So we had a conversation, and she's like, let's just try and fill the spots. Let's try and fill them. And he had that booking for 3 months. That was when you were able to book 3 months in advance, which we quickly changed to 2 months. Anyway, we ended up charging him, and it's a hefty cost, but it's probably a third of what our average spend per head is. So it's less. So we're actually losing money. I've already said no to people to come for dinner. They've emailed or rang me, and I'm like, sorry, we're fully booked. And this particular person was unhappy with that and took us to fair trading. So, yeah, in the end, fair trading contacted us, and they're like, well, that's your booking policy, isn't it? And I said, yes, it is. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is a lady that sits in an office, and like on the other side of the country, because she's obviously working for the government from home. And she's like, you've only got 14 seats. That's very small. And I said, yes, it's really small. I was like, look, I don't know what to do. I haven't been in this situation before. What do you suggest? She's like, look, I'm completely Switzerland. I'm just fair trading. I take the complaint from the customer. We can remedy it. And then if that doesn't work out, the customer can just choose what he wants to do. I was like, okay, well, why don't we meet halfway? And then prior to all of this, there was an exchange in emails where he had sent us emails saying, I'm going to bring your business down any way I can. I'm well linked up here on the Sunshine Coast, and I'll make it known. And I just thought to myself, and I sat in the restaurant, and I said to Stacey, I was like, why would this person, or why do people think that it's within their right to threaten someone? Like, I just didn't want to be I didn't want to be threatened, and I didn't want to, but I always try and respond with kindness. Like everything we do at Humble is responding with kindness. Everything we emulate, like we want people to feel good as soon as they walk in the door. We want people to feel good if they have to cancel for some reason. And we go, that's fine, let's try and fill the spot. I never want to charge people and have them not come to the restaurant. It's just not what we base ourselves on. We would rather you come and spend money. So like 9 times out of 10, if we have to charge anyone, I'll say, hey, do you think I can give you a voucher for that full amount? We have the money now and you can come and spend it another time. Anyway, it ended up going further, and he got a friend lawyer onto us, and we said, look, we're happy to take it further. Our solicitor was like, this doesn't sound very nice, but you're well within your right to do what, you're following your policy. This is your policy, follow it. And then, don't be afraid of what's going to happen. We ended up saying, look, we'll meet halfway and refund you. But that was after we'd spoke with our solicitor, and she's like, you haven't done anything wrong. Like, this person's booked a table at your restaurant, has a bad track record. You've decided to charge because they were late cancelling. So that was at the start of the year, and that was for us. We looked at what we were doing, and I feel like we're pretty fair. You always second guess yourself when stuff like this happens, but at the end of the day, how much longer can we go on not paying ourselves from the number of cancellations or no-shows or late cancellations?
But, I mean, Jade, that guy is so unreasonable. Like, we all know that. Like, that is just, it's just absolutely gobsmacking. My mouth has just been agog. Like, what goes through someone's mind that they think any of that is okay? I mean, it's just absolutely gobsmacking. And the fact that you're still meeting with kindness is an absolute credit to you and the spirit of hospitality. But, I mean, that is not a guy that you want in your restaurant. I mean, what else is going to happen once they sit down? I mean, it's just, not going to be fun. I mean, one thing I wonder is, when you go through those experiences, you're faced at, 4 o'clock with a half full restaurant, you're trying to fill tables. What is the extra drain on you in terms of delivering the experience that you want to deliver to the people who do show up?
There's like this level of anxiety, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to have a full restaurant. I've got my two girls on with me tonight. What am I going to do? But it's physically, and a friend of mine who owns, when this happened, I messaged him. He owns probably one of the most progressive restaurants in Toowoomba. And he's just really intelligent. He is the only chef in his restaurant, and he has I think he hires an apprentice. And I said, what do you reckon? Because he's really reasonable. And he just said, he's like, it's just so physically exhausting when you're busy, mentally exhausting when it's quiet, and emotionally exhausting when you make everything so personal. We compare ourselves to other places. You're either better than a lot of those places or don't feel as good as 1% of the places that have endless talented staff and a fat checkbook. And these places are also having article after article or hype stories written about the same venues or chefs, and you're there and you're like, what am I doing wrong? How can I fill my restaurant? How can I stop these cancellations happening? For me, I just try, most of the time I'll just try and get on section. We've only got 5 tables, but generally we have 2 to 3 tables each. And if it's just way too much for me, I'll say to the girls, right, if you can fill those tables, try and fill them. But it's sort of, you look a little bit silly because people have rung up for a table and I'm so sorry, I'm so booked out, or I can only do like an 8 o'clock table, and then they might rock up. Or generally I've found out that my social media is pretty powerful. So we've got a very good local following. I'll post something and say, hey, this is what's happened. If you guys want to come out for dinner. And I've got a lady that comes to us every week, and she will send us a message straight away and be like, right, I need a table for 4. You obviously need bums on seats. Let's do it. That I think makes it worth it. And if we are having a shitty day, that's usually Rachel is who we call because she'll be like, okay, cool, well, I'll bring the kids down, or, they're adult children, but, I'll go get a couple of my friends and we'll come for dinner, and they just make you feel so good. Like, But it's hard. It's hard to snap out of it because you go like halfway through service and then you'll pick up and then you go, oh, what am I stressing about? Why am I feeling so shit? It's interesting though. It's interesting how our brain is wired to think. Yeah.
It's really tough. And, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of a couple of restaurants in Victoria that are, similar in their size. So there's Enter Via Laundry, which has just opened at a permanent premises in North Carlton, which is also, very, very small, and every seat counts. And then Greasy Zoe's out in Hurstbridge, which, has just got a dozen seats. And both of those restaurants, see too often, these suddenly available tables, tables available at the last minute. You just think, oh, there is just a story behind every one of those posts, and you just hope that the personal and financial drain isn't so awful that it makes those businesses unsustainable in any way. I don't understand the problem with communicating this to the public, because to me it just seems so obvious that people need your money to run their business. I just don't know where the disconnect is, and that sense of entitlement where someone would think that, like, why are they putting the energy into ringing fair trade, like, and calling a lawyer? It's just such a misuse of it's just a misunderstanding of the human project, that we need one another to for our lives and our businesses to hum along. And I just don't know why you'd be that drainer. Ugh, just makes me my heart feel sad.
It's interesting, like when this was all going on, it was when Lismore went underwater and Pipit Restaurant was doing like just cooking food, and Pip Sombach was cooking all this food for displaced people. And I said to Stacey, we had a connection down there, I said, let's just get in the car. We have Tuesday, Wednesday. There are 2 days off together in a row. And usually Wednesday we cook. But I said, let's just forget about that. Let's drive. It's 3.5 hours, and let's just start cooking for these people. And the day that we were going to get in the car, the letter arrived from the solicitor. Now, not an excuse, like probably could have put my big girl pants on and jumped in the car. But the level of stress and the level of anxiety that someone like that gives you, it just makes you feel shitty. And I just said, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this. And then we ended up getting the restaurant organised and then spending a day together just trying to make ourselves feel good. And I just, like, what is going on in the world? A, look what's going on around you, and B, can we just treat people a little bit nicely? Like, yeah, kind? Like, I don't know.
Let's change tack slightly, Jade, and just pick up on something you said a while back, which was that when you were it's just an unthinkable thing for anyone to say now, is that you couldn't find a full-time job as a restaurant manager. I mean, where do you, just in a macro sense, like where do you think staffing is at? Why? What do you see about, we know about internationals. We know that we've lost a lot of, talent in that way, and that people aren't flooding back. But what else do you see, like in terms of perhaps people leaving the industry or not getting into the industry in the first place?
Yeah, I've got some stats from Belinda, like I wanted to just get her insight. And then another chef, Neil, who you might know, he did some stuff when you did your thermo stuff, I think, was it at Huxtable down in Melbourne?
Yep.
Yeah, so I got he's a very seasoned chef, he'd been around for a while. So I sort of asked him some questions and just got some insight for him. He's actually about to open his own wine bar / restaurant in Hervey Bay with his business partner. Now, this is a chef who's 43. He's worked in some of Melbourne or Australia's best restaurants, and he's like, I just got to do something for myself. So people, I think there's a number of people that are going, okay, how do I do something I'm going to enjoy, that's going to be rewarding for me, and I'm at that age now where I probably need to do something. And then you've got these other people. We were standing in our restaurant the other day, and our new delivery driver from one of our suppliers, which is probably like dry goods supplier, he walked in and he's got this high energy and he's like, oh, hey, Stacey, I listened to your podcast that you did with Huck the other day. That was so cool. And we were like, oh, what's your name? Or like, are you a chef? And he's like, yeah, I've been a chef for 20 plus years. He was a chef up here at a really good restaurant for 5-6 years, like a chef de cuisine, and he's travelled and worked professionally in 7 countries. But I stood there and like my heart broke a little bit because it's another great chef that our industry has lost. And not saying that the job he does now is not adequate, but he's still kept his foot in the door somehow to hospitality, because you can never leave. Like some people can, and the smart ones maybe, I don't know. But like he's kept his foot in the door. But I looked at him and I messaged him later and I said, hey, do you mind if I share your story? Because for me, and I've watched it happen in the last 6 months, I'm watching people leave the industry. Now, it's, at the start of COVID, it was considered an unstable industry. People left, they went to other industries, they liked the conditions, and then they've gone, oh, well, I can do this. Hopefully those people come back, because there's something slightly abnormal about us beautiful hospitality people that goes, you know what, I need that adrenaline rush again, or I need to do this, or and hopefully they come back. But then, there's other people. We were hanging out with another chef. Actually, I don't know if you follow him, Andy Cooks. He's got some fantastic cooking videos on Instagram and TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok. I'm too old. But we caught up with him, and he said to us, he now works, he's like an executive chef for one of Australia's biggest abattoirs, and he does, I'm not sure what his job is exactly, but we tried lots of great cuts of meat. But he said to me in there when we were doing like a little test kitchen, he goes, I won't step foot inside a service kitchen again, because he's done some serious work on himself, mentally and physically. And he's got a beautiful job now, and he's got a social platform where he can do what he wants to do and carry out his dream. But again, another chef who has worked across the world, mostly in UK kitchens and with some of Australia's best chefs. And there's that element of mental health or physical health as well, and I think that's something we probably need to talk about as well, and have that as an open topic in hospitality. One of my girls said to me recently, she's like, oh, I think I'm going to go get a mental health appointment. And I was like, that sounds fantastic. I feel like everyone needs therapy, and that there's this stigma around it, especially in our industry. So, you've got these people that have left and go, I'm not going to step foot in there. And then you've got these other people that have left and said, this is all right. This, hospitality is fun, but I'm in this industry now, and this is good. This will do for now, or I'm having a great time. So I think, I don't want to talk about the C word, but I think, at the start of that's changed a few things. And I think it's going to be a bit more of a challenge now, more so, because, there's what's happening in the world. And
there's so much in what you say. And I didn't know about Andy Cooks, but I've just found him, and his name's Andy Herndon, and he's got like 500,000 followers. And I guess there's like, there's different ways of looking at it, I reckon, because on the one hand, you could say, isn't this a great industry? There are so many different pathways. You never know where it's going to lead. I was a chef then, and now I'm a TikTok star, whatever it is, that's not necessarily negative. And perhaps, if it's about, getting food to the people in all kinds of different mediums, then perhaps that's a good thing. And, maybe spending time as a chef in kitchens and restaurants can be part of somebody's rich and varied career, and that's a positive. But on the other hand, of course, you want the industry to be nurturing and sustainable and workable for anybody who feels like that's their place long term. And people shouldn't be sort of spat out of kitchens and restaurants. They should, be leaving of their own accord, to a positive next step, whatever it might be. So, yeah, I don't know. I can see different ways of looking at it. But the mental health thing is so interesting. You know, I was watching the footy the other day, and there was a player that was interviewed, and they were just really matter-of-factly talking about their mindset and how it wasn't serving them. And then they went and spoke to the club psychologist, and she was amazing, and now it really turned them around. And you just think, well, I mean, perhaps you wouldn't have heard a professional sportsman saying that a decade ago, but it's certainly, you know, refreshing to hear them say it now. And I agree with you that I think that openness and willingness to see mental health as just another part of, you know, making life good is where things should be at. Those conversations should, and that support network should definitely be available and open and destigmatized.
Definitely, yeah. Like, I think it's just another self-care regime that we can all follow and try and try and get a hold of that and just take control and try and talk things through. Like, I think that's pretty important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I wonder also, you know, you said you dropped down from 5 nights to 4 nights just to get a bit more balance. Like, how has that been a blow financially, or has it sort of evened out in terms of, you know, outgoings and incomings?
Yes. So, I mean, essentially the Sunday night was, you know, quite sporadic. So we do a bit of a weird day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Monday. Monday is most of the time our biggest night, right up there with Saturday. So Sunday was like too sporadic. So we got rid of that. I think in the initial first month, but we were coming out of, like, you know, towards the end of summer, we were taking the same amount of money because we're only a new business. We've only been open for a year and 8 months. Now, as, you know, we start to slow down, but then we're starting to pick up, you're pushing and you're grinding for more and get people in the door, bums on seats. But it was more important. I would get in there on a Thursday and be in tears most Thursdays because I hadn't ordered this or I hadn't done that, or I've got too much to do. And I usually would help Stacey in the kitchen for a short amount of time. And why? Is it worth it? Why am I in tears every Thursday? So, you know, we've just changed it a little bit where we drop the Sunday. That's our only day off. We do a little bit of work. And then Wednesday, we spend all day Wednesday in the restaurant. We get there at 8:30 in the morning. I do a kitchen shift with Stacey, and then we do our ordering or things, anything that needs to be done. And then Tuesdays spent just doing creative things like menu or stuff like I'm doing with you now, or marketing. So we're probably working more, not having like a whole lot of time off. Like Sunday's a good day, a nice day. We're just having to prioritise and strategize and go, okay, what do we need to put energy and things into at the moment? So, yeah. But financially, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So, Jade, just let's get a bit golden. Like, tell me about a beautiful moment, something that really charges you up and keeps you going. Like, what is it that you love about what you do at Humble and Duke?
Oh, it's the people. It's the people, hands down. Like, you're serving the same people. I get the same people that come back. I've had a chef that's come in and, you know, halfway through his main meal, he was in tears because he's a bit of a creative himself. And he's like, I can taste the love in Stacey's food. I'm watching you run around the restaurant with your girls and everything you do. And it's those things. It's the words that are said to you like that mean more. It's it's the relationships that we're building with people. And, you know, there's that fine line between, you know, you're the person that owns the restaurant that they come and dine at. And then there's this beautiful other relationship that you're building with them. And you never want to overstep. So we're not that place where we go, yeah, cool, let's go out for dinner or let's hang out and have a few drinks, because we want to keep it professional. But you've also, you're learning what makes these people tick, what makes them happy, what excites them, and then you're trying to deliver that and you just see their eyes light up, or when they put the first spoonful of food in their mouth. Like, it's a beautiful thing, like watching the human interaction, and just, yeah, it's pretty electric.
Oh, I love that. It's got, yeah, shivers and tingles. But I think I also can see that to allow yourself to be so open to those positive feelings and that sort of, yeah, glowing feedback, that it is going to open you up to the harsher words and feelings and actions of people that come into your orbit. But Jade, I really wish you and Stacey all the good things, all the beautiful people coming in and reinforcing, and I suppose, yeah, powering the energy that you put into what you do. It just sounds like a really beautiful business that you're building, and yeah, I hope the world can reflect that back to you and help it power on. But yeah, so beautiful to hear from you today.
Thank you. It's weird, isn't it, that exactly what you said, we always focus on the negative more so than the positive, and sometimes there's always more positive, and we're weird as a human race, I think. But it's a beautiful thing, and yeah, I feel it was lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, well, really a privilege to speak to you. Can't wait to get up to the Sunshine Coast and enjoy your hospitality. I know you love to serve your regulars, but perhaps you'll allow a drop-in to come in as well.
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
Thanks so much for your time today, Jade. So good to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.